Getting the hang of the voiceover recording. First try didn't work, second try going forward. So this is my second outdoor ride with this rig where the video and the display screen are working. I not actually have an outdoor audio track, at least not enabled, because it's kind of boring. I do have now got a lavalier type microphone to plug into the Akaso, but I didn't try it on this week, basically because I forgot. So we're going to play with voiceover in iMovie after the fact. So we're using the screen recording from the Bolt V2, more or less synchronized with the video from the Akaso. Akaso is a much less expensive GoPro alternative. I mean, there are reasons why it's less expensive, but it seems so far to be good value for the money, and it has been doing what I want. Starting this ride out, I wanted to calibrate the 4 triple I, a quad I power meter, but it wasn't awake, and didn't realize I was going to need to spin it more to wake it up, so the calibrate button would appear on the Bolt. So this leg is uncalibrated. The cadence, the RPM numbers appear to be basically, well, pretty much the cadence numbers seem to be telling me that they're giving me peaks, and it did this last time, and when I calibrated it last time, it suddenly started giving me instantaneous. We're at kind of the top of a little peak here. This has been my biggest work in these little short test rides. We're going to go longer today, so this is moderate compared to some of the uphill we do later, although it's still very moderate uphill stuff. Now it's leveled off. I got to the end of this ride out on Raby Road and paused and found out that the power meter obviously is awake because it's giving me decent looking 3-second averaging, so I calibrated it at the end of the leg. The instructions for calibration tell you to put one pedal arm straight down or specific on which side, and I can never remember, so I'm hoping that it doesn't actually matter, but it might. Anyway, no, this is kind of a flat area through some farmers' fields. This hasn't really been subdivided or built up. The owner of most of this is Bill Hafe, who doesn't like development. He used to plant corn out here for silage for his cattle. He ran a dairy farm. He got out of the dairy business a few years ago, but he still seems to grow some hay, which I think he just basically sells off to other farmers. This kind of vaguely looks like corn, but I think it's just kind of tall grass. Of course, corn is technically tall grass, but that's another story. So we're coming along to the end of the relatively level stretch of Raby. If I were taking longer rides, I might keep going and go down the downhill, but I don't go down that hill unless I know that I'm going to make it back around, because that's a hill I have to walk up if I just want to turn around and come back, because I'm not a strong enough climber for that guy. Not right now anyway. Never have been. Don't know if I ever will be. So here's the turnaround. Here's where I stop and play with the bike computer to calibrate. And so I'm not really that facile with the controls yet. So, yeah. And the Bolt V2 is ergonomically not bad, but you still have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. One of the things that I discovered at the end of the ride, there you see I have calibrated it, and I don't have any idea what the torque offset number it reports means. I suppose I should research that. But anyway, a thing that I learned at the end of this ride today has to do with the type of power meter I bought. I chose to get one that has power meters on both crank arms, because you can buy them either way with a power meter on one crank arm or one on both. And if you only have a power meter on one crank arm, then it'll just double the number it reports. And I figured out that I had only managed to pair the one crank arm as I brought up the display, and it told me that 100% of my power was coming from the right leg, 0% from the left, so obviously I only have one paired. So I figured out that they get paired separately, and I did that at the end of the ride, so the next time I go out we're going to see what kind of difference that makes. Most riders produce slightly different power numbers from the different legs. My left leg is probably weaker because I know that one of the two major veins in it was removed 5 years ago for my bypass. So I don't really expect that leg to be as strong, and we'll find out if I get that solved. So we're kind of riding along, seeing the same fields from the opposite direction. I'm going to hit that small uphill, and as I get stronger, we should see this becoming more and more of a minor bump in the road and less of having to pump in some wattage to go over it. Or rather, the wattage I pump in to go over it will become less noticeable. But that's in the future. And today, the hopeful sign is that my breathing at this point is significantly improved, because the inhaler my doctor prescribed, on the chance that this is asthma that's affecting me. Small sample size, but in 2 rides since my insurance company decided they were willing to pay for it, has definitely made things seem better. So, you know, correlation is not causality and all that, but actually one of the ways they diagnose asthma is try an inhaler and see if it works. Just like the way they figure out the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes is they prescribe the type 2 medication and see if it works. They sort of know if you're really young versus being older, that if you're young it's type 1 and you're older it's type 2, but that's not 100% reliable. So when I came out of the hospital, I was on insulin prescribed by the hospital until my doctor switched me over to type 2 medications, and they work. So obviously I am not type 1 and I do not need to take insulin, which is good because I hated that. So this part of the road, the northern end of the road, is more development, houses on comparatively large lots, mostly in the 4 to 6 acre range, because the soil type makes water and septic challenging for small lot sizes. Couple of small lots down in the 2 acre range that kind of leak through the zoning board, but that's not normally approved. I'm feeling good, so instead of stopping at my driveway like I have been in previous outdoor rides, since I got back outdoors, I am going to ride right past. In fact, I think I already have ridden right past. Yes, I have. So we're about to do a very short steep downhill, and because there is a stop sign and always stop at the foot of the downhill, instead of powering down, I unclip my left foot because I don't want to fall over, so that I can gently brake to a stop before the stop. I think anybody who's ever read with the old-fashioned toe clips or with the modern clipless pedals is at some point failed to unclip and fallen over. I know I have. It doesn't hurt so much as that it's really embarrassing if anybody sees you. And if you're President Biden and you do that, and the press are watching with cameras, then people will post it on YouTube and Facebook. And people who are completely ignorant of riding with modern pedals will make fun of you because they don't actually know why that happens. So I'm looking for some kind of a setting because I really would like to have instantaneous or quasi-instantaneous cadence numbers, but I can't find it. So that is now a research problem. 2 days ago, as I realized I was going to do this ride outdoors, I made sure that my computer was charged up, but I also checked and discovered a firmware upgrade, and so I have not seen instantaneous cadence numbers since I did that update. So that's another thing I need to be aware of and ponder. So now we have turned through the Alway stop and we're now heading left down Beidig Road, spelled B-I-I-T-T-I-G on most signs. Everybody thinks it's Biddig and wonders about the two I's, but the town clerk for many years was Barbara Beidig, who passed away recently, and we actually asked her once when we were getting something notarized, and she made it clear that it's pronounced Beidig, and her family farm is further down the road. We don't pass it on this ride, but I know which one it was. It's not in there, it hasn't been in their hands for a long time. The thing I am feeling here on this ride is that this is the best I've felt on this particular loop in quite a long time. We're about to make an acute right turn onto Hafe Road. Bill Hafe family has been here a long time, so there's a road named after them. We're coming up on that now. There tends to be a tiny bit of sand and gravel at the apex of this guy, so I tend to take it slowly because I'm not in a race. And falling off a bike isn't actually fun. We're coming up on the turn. Bill Hafe's brother's place is ahead on the right. Not sure if Bill Hafe's brother is still with us, but that was where he lived on a carve out from the Hafe farm. Now we're on Hafe Road. This is uphill outdoors that I haven't done a stretch like this in a while, and this is the first time I've done this in several years without having to take stops for water and breathing. So I am clearly feeling a lot better. I'm going to start reviewing my routes in Strava and decide what I want to follow up with on my next outdoor ride, having had a good experience on this ride. So up ahead at the top of this on the left is the home of Bruce Kozakowski, a fellow member of the Mohawk Hudson Region SCCA. There are 3 of us in this little stretch of the Averill Park Sand Lake area. The third one is Doug Kelly, who is up the road a little bit. We're not going by him today, but it's just sort of interesting that we have such a compact little grouping of motorsports enthusiasts here. Doug Kelly is a longtime road racer who has tended to race things like Corvettes with big motors, and Bruce is a solo autocross HPDE time trial kind of person who has built a series of BMWs, builds them, runs them for a while, gets to where he wants to move on to a new project, sells them, and gets a new car to build up. He's playing with a more or less stock E36 now. So here we're at the turn. This is Shear Road, which is the big county route through the area, waiting for that car to go by so we can go out. Because I personally haven't got much interest in getting hit by cars. I didn't blow that stop sign. That would have probably ended poorly for me today. So then we sweep around this corner. And then we have a pretty straight, smooth, flat run to the all-way stop. All of these roads have been repaved pretty recently. The degrees and types of repaving vary, but the county route usually gets really nice quality asphalt, and it did. And while the town road, Raby Road, in front of my house has been getting chip and seal for some reason, the last time they did it, they actually did proper asphalt, which is nice. Because chip and seal has, it's okay when it is fully bedded in, but chip and seal freshly done basically means a lot of loose gravel, and I hate riding on that on a bike. So I'm very happy they did not do that this last time. So past the neighbors, coming up to the all-way. The all-way used to be a three-way on Ford roads, and people would fly through it, so you had to be careful because the people flying through it were often over the speed limit and not really paying attention. Now that it's all-way, there are still a small number of people who will come in on the old leg that didn't have a stop and blow through it. So you kind of need to still watch it here. But we've stopped, and the car on the left is clearly coming to a stop, and so I am taking the right-of-way as I am entitled to as the first vehicle at the intersection because of how right-of-way rules work in the U.S. And look, I did not have a close encounter with a car. Now we're on a short, steep climb just to get up to the level part of Raby Road. Breathing is still going very well. This has really been a pretty nice ride from my point of view. Could have gone out for longer today, but I'm still actually, learning where I am on this breathing curve after, switching to the inhaler. Was masking today because I'm allergic to stuff, so keeping pollen out of my nose is another thing that's really valuable. So just passing the neighbors who have big lots like we have big lots until I get to my mailbox, and that's not here. Next driveway on the right is mine. So I'm going to shut down the voiceover now and let this run to the end, and I'll see what people think of this.